Most individuals have little authority over when or whether they can, or need to, return to work, as well-being authorities, legislators, and organizations settle on choices about restarting the economy. Be that as it may, there are a few stages numerous specialists can take, especially office laborers, to decrease the danger of disease for themselves and colleagues when they do return. These measures dovetail with preventive advances managers and entrepreneurs can take so as to maintain a strategic distance from new flare-ups and protect their laborers. Past guaranteeing sufficient testing and contact following for COVID-19, the most significant measure to help forestall the spread of the illness in the working environment includes bringing just basic specialists back at first. The base expected to get this show on the road, says Joseph Allen, DSc, right-hand teacher of Introduction Evaluation Science at Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. Past that, the arrangements are many, and they should all be utilized. There's no silver shot here, says Allen, a measurable examiner of debilitated structures, where workers become sick because of form, microbes, or different pathogens that frequently demonstrate hard to track down, and co-writer of the new book Healthy Buildings. How COVID-19 Spreads. Understanding the scope of defensive measures requires a comprehension of the ways SARS-CoV-2, the coronavirus that causes COVID-19, is currently thought to spread. By direct contact with a tainted individual. At the point when contaminated respiratory beads from a hack, a wheeze, talking, giggling, singing, or breathing tumble to surfaces that are then moved by someone else. At the point when little attainted beads, called pressurized canned products, remain suspended noticeable all around for a few minutes and are breathed in or ingested by others. Through human crap, truly, you heard right. The subject of which mode overwhelms is to a great extent unimportant, Allen contends. It doesn't make a difference if a given irresistible pathway is answerable for 2% or half of cases, and we may never discover. These rates are not known for seasonal influenza, he brings up. What is important is avoiding potential risk to confine each type of spread. We ought to toss all that we have at this infection, which incorporates controls for all methods of transmission, Allen told columnists in a phone call in April. His recommendations reflect best practices to get ready work environments for COVID-19 received by the Government Occupational Safety and Health Administration (OSHA). Allen spreads out 3 columns for a more secure work environment. Improve sterilization. Sterilizing normally contacted surfaces at work, entryway handles, lift catches, work areas, telephones, espresso machines, is clearly indispensable. While it's possible representatives could help with this, the errand isn't little, and managers must do the majority of the grimy work themselves or recruit experts. It includes a 2 advance procedure of cleaning with cleanser and water and afterward purifying with a disinfectant, for example, a weakened arrangement of dye or isopropyl liquor. The CDC has guidelines here. On the off chance that there's a fumes fan, leave it running when you leave the restroom. Try not to go into the washroom directly after another person. Also, obviously, wash your hands appropriately and regularly. There are extra dangers you might be less mindful of prowling in the restroom, which you can help diminish. Flushing a can creates vaporizers that can glide around for as long as 30 minutes, explore finds. On the off chance that that latrine contains the defecation of a contaminated individual, well, you get the thought. The cures are basic. If the latrine has a cover, close it before flushing, Allen proposes. On the off chance that there's a fumes fan, leave it running when you leave the washroom. Try not to go into the restroom directly after another person. Furthermore, obviously, wash your hands appropriately and frequently. Organizations with the methods could utilize the present personal time to consider introducing contact-free spigots and toilets and even sans touch washroom entryways. Allen proposes improve ventilation and filtration. The World Health Organization and the U.S. Places for Disease Control and Prevention have been delayed to underscore that the coronavirus might be spreading through the air, past the 6 feet regularly prompted for physical division, Allen and different specialists have contended. There are a significant number of us in my field that are persuaded that the science says airborne transmission is going on. To imagine why this issues, consider somebody with awful breath, Allen proposes. At the point when you're truly near them or directly before them, you know it. Yet, further away, they're despite everything transmitting except it won't be as powerful. It's comparative with the coronavirus. Bigger respiratory beads will fall close by. Mist concentrates will drift and scatter. Researchers don't have the foggiest idea what number of coronavirus particles it takes to make somebody wiped out, however involvement in other viral maladies proposes the portion matters. Accordingly, Allen says, it's imperative to weaken the fixation in a given space. That should be possible just by opening windows. A few investigations have indicated that expanding ventilation by opening windows decreases the spread of malady when all is said and done. Businesses ought to introduce high-grade channels with a rating of MERV 13 or better in their warming, ventilation, and cooling (HVAC) frameworks, Allen says. It doesn't generally cost such a lot to redesign your channel to a higher evaluation, he calls attention to. It's not so much clear how powerful this can be that as it may. Filtration in building warming, ventilation, and cooling (HVAC) frameworks can be a piece of a general hazard alleviation approach, however isn't by and large viewed as an answer without anyone else, states the National Air Filtration Association, a not-for-profit that speaks to the business. There is no immediate logical proof of advantage, however some decreased presentation can sensibly be gathered dependent on the capacity of certain channels to evacuate particles that contain a SARS-CoV-2 infection. Compact air purifiers, however not modest, can likewise lessen hazard, Allen says. Great air purifiers, incorporating those with HEPA channels, can to be sure expel germs from the earth, and specialists think this is valid for the coronavirus, as indicated by Consumer Reports. Diminish thickness and don't cover the real factors. The present open office plans, with work areas swarmed close to one another and desk area dividers evacuated, present special difficulties in the midst of a viral pandemic. Be that as it may, the difficulties can be survived, Allen says. To start with, as an ever-increasing number of laborers return, organizations ought to consider making separate moves, or substitute work days, so less individuals are in the workplace at a given time. Meeting rooms ought to be shut. There are approaches to improve physical removing that representatives can actualize, as well. On the off chance that your work area faces another, have a go at moving them to make a balance point so respiratory beads and pressurized canned products are coordinated into dividers or open paths rather than legitimately at one another. A few organizations are thinking about the establishment of plexiglass obstructions between office workstations, and even a potential come back to the once obsolete desk area. To some degree shockingly, the least viable measure, in the great plan of ensuring most laborers outside of human services experts and specialists on call, is wearing a veil or other individual defensive gear (PPE), Allen and different specialists state. Do it, they prompt, however simply realize that it comes after all the needs above as far as viability. There's a job for PPE, without a doubt, he says. Be that as it may, he's concerned managers will consider PPE the best or just resistance. You don't give somebody a veil and state, well, our obligations are finished. Regardless of whether workers are urged or required to wear face veils will come down to state and neighborhood well-being office rules or individual organization choices. There's no tradition that must be adhered to on this. In the event that general well-being experts suggest across-the-board utilization of PPE, for example, covers, it will require lucidity with regards to what is required and who is answerable for giving such hardware, particularly if deficiencies persevere, Suzanne Clark, leader of the U.S. Office of Commerce, said in a letter to individuals a month ago. On the off chance that face covers are to be depended on, individuals need to realize how to wear them appropriately. Allen prompts covers particularly in territories where representatives assemble, and especially in lifts. New York City's health department, which knows some things about lifts, recommends the catches be sterilized routinely, and everybody ought to keep up the 6-foot partition rule, in line and inside the lift. Indeed, that implies a conceivably long pause or, as the city recommends, using the stairwell. OSHA likewise encourages organizations to give hand sanitizer and extra tissue boxes and junk containers, to effectively advance legitimate cleanliness, and to urge wiped-out workers to remain at home. The organization gives more inside-and-out counsel dependent on presentation chances that vary by work type, for example, controlling the quantity of clients in a retail location or giving gloves and eye security to representatives in high-chance employments. Allen focuses on that none of these measures will bode well in the event that we don't initially have wide-scale testing to realize when individuals are tainted or on the off chance that they may be resistant, and across-the-board contact following to advise individuals who may have gotten the ailment. What's more, he says, nothing will wipe out all the hazard as choices are made to get this show on the road once more. There's nothing of the sort as zero hazard, he says. The objective here is to limit chance.